Hi, guys. So, as you know, February is Black History Month, and we're going to read a story for Black History Month today. And this story is a biography genre, which means it's a true story about a person's life. It is about a person named Bessie Coleman. Ever heard of her? She was the first Black female pilot, and it was kind of amazing because she did this at a time when Black people and women really didn't have a lot of opportunities to do jobs like this. But that was her passion, and she found a way to do it, and she became one of the best pilots of her time. So let's learn about Bessie Coleman. This story is by Carol Alexander. Meet Bessie Coleman. When Bessie Coleman was young, no one encouraged her to follow her dreams. At the time, African American children were not expected to succeed, but Bessie would not let anyone hold her back. She became the first ever Black female pilot in the world. In fact, she became a world famous aviator. Bessie was born in Atlanta, Texas, on January 26, 1892. She was one of 13 children. When she was 2 years old, Bessie's family moved west to Waxahachie. Bessie's grandparents had been slaves, and her parents were sharecroppers. They grew cotton crops for other farmers. Times were hard for people like the Colemans. Segregation was practiced in the South. That meant black people and white people were kept apart. Black people were often very poor. Bessie went to school in a one-room schoolhouse. It was just for black children. She had to walk 4 miles each way to get there and back home. A new start. After school, Coleman went to work. She saved enough money to start college in 1910, but soon she ran out of money. She had to leave school. Two of her brothers lived in Chicago, so she moved in with them. She got a job as a manicurist. A manicurist is someone who does people's nails and paints them. But she was not very happy. At the time, Coleman dreamed of doing something bigger. Soon Coleman's luck began to change. She became friends with Robert Abbott. He published the most important African American newspaper in the United States. It was called the Chicago Defender. Coleman's friendship with Abbott would change her life. He helped her follow her dreams and become a pilot. While Coleman was living in Chicago, the United States entered World War I. This was the first time in history planes were used to fight in a war. The war ended in 1918. American pilots were returning home. They bragged about their daring flights, and Coleman dreamed of taking to the sky herself. But no one in America would teach a young black woman how to fly. In 1920, Coleman traveled to France. She was accepted to the country's top flight school. Coleman knew the training would take all of her savings, and she was the only black student in her class. But still, she was determined to succeed. And this picture is of the first female pilot in the world. She was named Ramonde de la Roe, and she was from France. France. Taking off. Coleman knew that learning to fly was dangerous. She had to practice on a plane that was old and shaky. One day, Coleman saw another student crash. The accident left her shaken, but she did not stop training. On June 15th, 1921, Coleman received her international pilot license. She flew in air shows all over Europe. Coleman returned to the US in 1921. With her pilot's license, she was confident she would find work. She was wrong. Few people were willing to hire a black female pilot. The next year, Coleman returned to Europe for more training. She practiced doing stunts and tricks. This type of flying was called barnstorming. Coleman was a well-known aviator by the time she returned home again. Brave Bess. Coleman had proven herself. Now it was easier to find work in America. Her first air show was on Labor Day, 1922. The following year, Coleman was seriously hurt in a plane crash, but 3 months later, she was ready to fly again. Coleman had an exciting year in 1925. She flew in a lot of air shows. She amazed her many fans. Coleman also gave talks about flying. She performed all over the country, but she would not appear in places where there was segregation. Coleman was famous now. She wanted to help people of color, so she planned to open a flight school just for African Americans. Coleman's story ended much too soon. On April 30th, 1926, she and another pilot, William D. Wills, flew to Orlando, Florida. Wills was at the control while Coleman sat in the cockpit. She was looking for places to perform her next air show. Wills lost control of the plane. Both he and Coleman were killed. At Coleman's funeral, 10,000 people came to pay their respects to this daring pilot. In 1977, the Bessie Coleman Aviators Club was founded. Every year, black pilots honor Coleman by flying over her grave. Bessie Coleman is remembered as a woman who succeeded against great odds. She's a role model who believed in a bright future for all African Americans. And that's the end. If you like that story about Bessie Coleman, that was pretty amazing what she did and all those tricks she learned. I'll see you next time.